Good morning. This is some digital footage from a digital camera, and this is that same footage printed on Kodak Vision 3 250D film, scanned back to digital, and I'm here today to give you insights in case you want to do something like this. You're welcome. I originally didn't want to share this, but YOLO. Does that music not make you want to watch Survivor? I sent a variety of different looks, some fully graded, some in log, normal Rec 709, and thankfully the Rec 709 looks the best. When you film on film, you film real life, it would make sense that you would want to hand over as close to real life of a look as you can. It makes sense. It's easy. I went through all the footage, applied the standard ARRI 709 LUT, and made sure exposure was somewhat normal. I didn't need to change exposure in post because I'm a professional and I nailed it in camera. I got the footage back looking like this. Now we're in a color grading actual film workflow. If you did your job earlier, which was easy, this will also be easy. This is a Cineon scan. I will place a Cineon to Rec 709 color space transform on this footage. There's not really much to do here because I am phenomenal at my job. In a node before that, I will adjust exposure with a mapped HDR wheel. Then directly after that, I will white balance with the offset. For exposure, you can do it in a variety of different ways. You can use the offset, or you can use curves, or the gain in the primaries. Whatever is making your look happen, you can use, but the mapped HDR wheel works pretty nicely. With film, I typically choose one of these three processes for grading. You just saw process number one. Process number two would be to add the 2383 print LUT that is built into DaVinci Resolve and has been there forever. Option number three would simply be to just add contrast via the contrast slider and pivot, or with curves, sometimes it just works. I usually go with option one. The print LUT is more so to show you what the footage would look like once printed to 2383 stock, and less so of a final look. It can be a final look, but that's a video for a different time. Mostly I just stick with option one. It's an enjoyable process and I love it. The look is kind of like within the film. If you bring up your vector scope, it's easy to balance. Just a simple 3-node correction here on the Alexa footage scanned to 16mm 250D, and it's beautiful. We get halation, we get grain, and we even get the gate weave. It feels like film. I was uncertain at times which one I was working on, Alexa printed on film or the actual film that I shot on the same stock on the 250D. I did shoot film and digital in the studio this day, so we have a good reference point. Here are two shots. One of these was shot on the Alexa and printed to 16, and one of these was shot on 16mm film, both 250D. Can you tell which is which? Shot one is shot on 250D, and shot two is shot on the Alexa and printed to 250D. Not knowing which one I was working on further made me be interested in this process even more, of printing digital onto film. This was sent to CineLab in Boston. They do 16mm and 35mm and have a bunch of other services as well. You can choose which stock you want. The last project I sent to them, I just sent a 16:9, 3840 by 2160 ProRes 422 HQ in normal Rec 709, 23976 frames per second. Here's what I sent, here's what I got back. The first project I sent to them, I sent a 2K 4x3 file, 24 frames per second. Here's what I sent, and here's what I got back. You want back 44 for sure, so that you have the flexibility grading the film, but sending 422 HQ is fine, in my opinion. Let's say you have a 30-second ad that you want to do this on. I believe that there's a 2-minute minimum, so you're either sending your 30 seconds and they're charging you for 2 minutes, or if you're smart, you could send that 30-second ad 4 times. And what I would do is send it with a normal baseline exposure. Then I would copy the edit, put it at the end, and drop that exposure down by 1, and then do another with the exposure up by 1 in your fourth one. If you're just trying to meet 2 minutes, you could just, I don't know, experiment in some other way. Maybe your fourth one would be something with more contrast. All you're doing is giving yourself some options when you get it back from the lab. If you have a feature film, would you do that? Yeah, maybe, depending on your overall budget. But for a 30-second ad, I would definitely be sending multiple versions. The most recent project I sent, the film started with a clip that faded up from black. I wasn't positive if I wanted that fade to be printed to film. I copied it, put it in the end of the edit, and removed the fade. So then when I get it back in the end of the timeline, there is that opening clip without the fade. I did find that I preferred the shot as it was because as it fades up, you see the grain. It's fading up from film black, not digital black. I had a few instances of text coming up. One was a title given to us to put in the edit. I actually gave, I think, 3 options of that. So one, as it was in the edit, the video cut to black, title came up over black, and then footage faded up below the title, and then the title went away. The versions that I gave the lab were as it was in the edit, as I just explained. And then at the end of the timeline, I had the footage that came up under the text fading up on its own with no text over it, not fading up at all with no text over it, and then just the text on its own. So then I have options on how to blend those elements together. And in the end, the same as the beginning of the video, I did leave it as it was in the edit, where the whole text coming up and fading up from black was all printed to film, and that looked the best. But the film will change your logos and text, obviously, because it's being printed. And if you have that baked into your footage, you have no option to remove it unless you go back to the digital footage, match that digital footage to the film scan, which is not the worst thing in the world, but you just could have saved yourself some time by just supplying the lab with the different elements when there are things layered on top of each other. Put 10 seconds of black in the edit so that you have film black to work with if you need to make any changes where you're fading out a clip instead of fading it out to digital black. At least you can fade it out to have black film grain underneath it. It's more of a connected piece. In my scenario, luckily there were no clips that I needed to replace because I prepped it properly. I did need to add 2 small titles at the end that were decided after it was sent to the lab, and having the other titles as a reference point as well as just film black, I was able to create new additions of titles at the end and match it perfectly to what was printed to film and then scanned back. Let's say we had no titles at all, and someone asked, can we make titles and make it look like those titles were also printed to film? That would have been an annoying task, but it was easy with the reference point. Same thing happens with footage. I have shot a lot of film and digital right next to each other. I'm always staring at film and doing tests and staring at digital footage from all different cameras. Created F1 and I use it on everything. This is a shot from an ARRICAM LT 35mm Vision 3 film, and this is a shot from a Sony FX3 utilizing F1. Cost-wise, there is a massive difference between shooting on film and shooting digitally and printing to film. The big difference is that you're sending them the final cut. If you're shooting film and you're at a 10-to-1 or a 20-to-1 ratio, you're shooting 20 times as much film as you're actually using, and that film needs to be purchased, developed, and then scanned. If you are just sending the final cut, you're just sending the final cut. So you're dealing with a much lower cost to send and have printed. I had a bunch of questions in the beginning and now I have a bunch of answers. So if you need any help, let me know. I will also put some of these frames on high res. I will leave a link below for that right next to the F1 link. Also, I'm filming this on a different lens than I usually film on, which I will show, I think, in my next video, unless I make a little bit of a rant about the current state of AI image generation, which I think could be useful to talk about. Okay, peace.